Hi, everyone. I am Hayley Hoffman, founder and CEO of Dandi, and I am joined here by my wonderful head of partners in cultivation and collaboration, Sara Davenport. And we are going to have a really special talk today. Sara's going to be sharing with us her journey as a cancer survivor, two-time cancer survivor. And as Fab Fridays are really designed as a place for us to grow personally and professionally, and to take in some different information, a way for us to expand, to encourage us to innovate and to think about the way that we do things in new ways. I thought this was going to be a great topic as we talk about cancer so much within our industry, within the cosmetics industry, and we talk about it in terms of toxicity and carcinogenic type of chemicals. And carcinogenic, hazards. So, Sara, thank you so much, first of all, for being part of the Dandi Day family, and then for joining and really being able to share your story with us and willing to share that. I really appreciate it.
Oh, Hayley, I'm just overjoyed to be working with you at Dandi Day and that you asked me to get on here and share my story, because it is obviously very personal. It's been an interesting journey, and it really is something that I think brought us a lot closer together, is our passion for creating healthy lives and on so many different levels. So thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And so one of the things that I'm really curious about is, as my community, the scientific community within the beauty industry, we really look at ingredients from a very different perspective, in terms of stability, and we are privy to like toxicological information and things like that, but we don't know all of the science. There's that saying or that truth that not one single person knows how to make a pencil. Like, it takes all these different inputs. And I feel like that about cosmetics, and when we're looking about the effects of it on our health, our environment. And so just from that perspective, can you share with me a little bit about when you were diagnosed with cancer? How did your relationship change with cosmetics or the things that you were putting on your skin? Can you share some of that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really interesting. I have always been very interested in diet, nutrition, exercise. Like, these things to me were the gateway to a healthy life. And I didn't really think that much about all the products I was using. And then initially, my first cancer diagnosis, in my late 30s, I was diagnosed with metastatic thyroid cancer. And once they took my thyroid out, I had lots of cancer in my throat. But when they took my thyroid out, they told me I had severe Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease of the thyroid. So once I heard that, I was just like, I don't know anything about this. I always thought thyroid issues were, you gain 100 pounds and you can't get out of bed, and so it hadn't even crossed my radar. So I started kind of learning more then about, like, what does that mean? What are autoimmune diseases? I don't really know. And then shortly thereafter, I got hit with my second diagnosis, which was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And, that's when I really started diving in, because it's like, I'm in my 30s. I was doing everything right. Like, I thought was right. How am I so sick? Like, I don't understand this. And I actually, a couple things, I came across this book called Anti-Cancer, written by a neuropsychologist or psychiatrist who was diagnosed with cancer. And he kind of went through the same thing, like, wait a minute, what are all these things? How are we getting sick? and it actually gave me a little bit of peace of mind, because it was like, okay, there's diet, there's nutrition, there's stress, there's your toxic load, and then there's connection. And so I was like, oh, it's more than just diet and exercise. Like there's so,
Okay.
which, duh, I feel like now I'm like, well, duh. And that's when I kind of started, diving in and really learning more, and reaching out to you, and you being so generous with information and helping me understand. But it really has been a journey, and to kind of start to think like, oh my gosh, I don't even think about the fact that maybe I use the same lotion on my face every single day. What's in this lotion? I'm putting it
Mhm.
on my body, I'm cleaning my house with it. Like I just didn't think about it. And then,
Mhm.
kind of starting to open the door and feeling completely overwhelmed and like, oh my gosh, it's never going to be okay. And then going, okay, no, what do I have control over? Okay. I didn't go through and like throw out everything I owned. I was like, every time something runs out, I'll buy something new. Or if something seemed very toxic to me, then I might switch it out a little sooner. But it's been a process of
Mhm.
learning and understanding. And I don't think it's something that I'll necessarily ever stop doing, but I'm just so much more aware of it now. And so grateful to know like there are more companies, there are more products, there's more awareness around this topic, and
Mhm.
more science. And so it's definitely been a process, and one that
Mhm.
I feel like, as a consumer, it does feel so overwhelming, because it's like I don't understand what a lot of the science side of things mean, but trying to empower myself and learn from people who really care and really create products that are safer, and just being open to like, okay, it's a process, and I want to learn, and I
Mhm.
want to share, and I want to help other people understand too.
That's wonderful. I like, yeah, I think all things are all things are a process, and yeah, that includes looking at all the different things that are in your life. I think the next question I have, when you were talking about toxicity and like the toxic load, was it something that you got from the book, or was it something that was recommended by your oncologist? Did your oncologist have any particular type of instruction or insight on the type of environment you were creating for yourself when it came to things that you're putting on your skin?
Not, I mean, sadly, no. I
Okay.
feel like what I've learned in the medical community, um, well, twofold. So my surgeon from the first cancer, so she focused solely on the thyroid. Like that's all she did. And I was talking to her like, I don't understand. Like when I Google thyroid cancer, it says I shouldn't be getting it until I'm in my, 60s or 70s. And she
Mhm.
even said that, surprisingly younger and younger, more and more women and men, are ending up with thyroid cancer. And so she was undergoing a study, because
Mhm.
she's like, I definitely think it's environmental, like what is in our world, what we're using. So she was trying to study that at that time. I haven't
Okay.
kept in touch with her to know kind of where she landed with her study. But that was kind of the only inkling, really, from the medical community. It's
Mm.
my oncologist, in LA, who I love, absolutely love. Oncologists are very focused. They're like, my job is to make sure you're in remission from lymphoma. Like they are like this with lymphoma, or whatever type of like, and even within that world, there are, I think, 60 different types of lymphoma. So it's like, I focus on this one, it's very
Yeah.
tunnel vision, because it's so complicated and everybody's bodies respond so differently, that it was more like, let's just get you into remission, and then you can
Mhm.
focus on whatever you want to do to be healthy. And a lot of times, like, part of my frustration as a cancer survivor is so much of the information is just sort of like, well, eat healthy, exercise, try to reduce your stress. It's very vague. And I mean, that's been my experience.
And those are all things that you were doing before you had cancer. So you were looking for other answers.
So. Yeah, and sometimes I literally am like, how do I do that? I do that. I don't understand.
I already checked those boxes.
I've even gotten some like, we don't really know. There's so much unknown to it that it's really just this sort of big wide open thing. And that's why I've had to, for myself at least, get to the point of like, I'm doing the best I can, because otherwise I think the stress of trying to be perfect with all of these things and stay healthy, like that hypervigilance, causes more stress. And it's just like, okay, it's too much.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. So, Sara, because I had some technical difficulties, I had to change computers and I didn't bring my charger. May I take 5 seconds to get my charger?
Go for it.
I'm so sorry. And I just saw that my coffee from like 8 o'clock this morning is still sitting here. I forgot about my coffee. It's definitely been a fabulous Friday.
Oh man, I literally this morning I was like, I don't even know how it's Friday already. What's happening? What day is it?
Yes, it goes by for sure.
And I think that's part of it, of like the stress relief part. And I know with COVID, man, it's like we really have to learn to ebb and flow. Like I know in my life, it's, this like constant ebb and flow because so many things change all the time.
Yes, it's been a true test of flexibility and grace and and learning for sure. Okay, I think we're not going to die right now.
Okay, so, perfect.
Yeah, we're not dying anymore. So that's really fascinating. I mean, I think ideally we would like for the doctors to have all the answers, and for the doctors to say they don't know, right? And as you said, we're always learning, discovering new things, and it does seem to be this huge field. I think with naturopathic medicine and wellness, and we see this convergence of beauty and wellness as the conversation grows louder, and I think more people want answers for sure of ingredient safety. Is that causing harm over time? Looking at the bioburden, I know for the environmental working group, their North Star is public health and reducing the bioburden of chemical exposure. And I think for the general public, if you're not in any kind of industry where you're in the sector that's manufacturing and creating like textiles or ingredients for cosmetics, paint, for the things that are for buildings, for cars, construction materials, there is a lot that is unknown from actually what all goes into our surroundings from a chemical standpoint. And I'm not taking the position that I know everything, but it is very curious, right? Like I think as professionals and anybody in the industry who's creating a product that someone's going to use, we have to be open to learn about the impacts of it. And so when you think about cancer, and your doctor who said that more people are getting it at a younger age, it's something to be you kind of think about like, oh, well, why is that? What's
Mm-hmm.
happening, going on? And so, how has having cancer twice, how has that changed your like daily routine? And can you walk us through that? That looks like for you.
Oh my gosh. I feel I try to describe it. I'm like, there's my life before cancer and there's my life after cancer.
Okay.
You know, it's definitely changed a lot. I feel like
Mhm.
not only just from a product perspective, because that absolutely has changed. Especially at this point, I am 4.5 years in remission, thank goodness. I always knock on something.
Very thankful.
Um, and, and in that time, I've totally overhauled my cleaning products, my beauty products, my skincare, my like anything that's going to be in my environment, I have
Mhm.
overhauled it.
Okay.
I'm much more cautious about the food that I eat. And sometimes I think my family thinks I'm weird or like snobbish about things and like, okay, people that are around me, I'm like, I don't necessarily want that. But once you've gone through something and been so sick, it just,
Mhm.
the stakes are higher. I'm like, I won't take those chances. So from that perspective, it's changed. Also, just from a life, like I said, flow, self perspective, and definitely
Mhm.
has shifted when I think about issues or problems that come up. Like I'm much more chill, let's say, because I'm like, if it's not cancer, you know what? It's figure outable. Like
Yeah.
there's always, it might not be the perfect solution, but there's always a way through things. I mean, even with COVID, I've talked to a few other cancer survivor friends during this time, and it's like, oh, the rest of the world is kind of getting a glimpse of what it's like when you're going through cancer. You're like, you can't leave, you might get sick, you got to be
Mhm.
extra careful, like all of these different things. And I'm really hoping like COVID will help us find a little more empathy and middle ground of like, hey, we're all in this together. It's hard for
Mhm.
everybody right now, and we got to care about each other. And that's when it comes to like the cosmetic industry or the personal care industry. It's like, I mean, any industry really. It's like, hey, how
Mhm.
can we care about public health? How can we care about the environment? How can we make it profitable for these communities, for ourselves? It's just like all of those pieces. If
Yeah.
we zoom out and take a more global approach, then it's like it really can be a win-win-win instead of like,
Yeah.
oh, you're the winner and, we're getting the short end of the stick over here because maybe we just don't know any better. So, and that's
Yeah.
what I love about Dandy Day is just that approach to like, no, we can be in this together and help create amazing products that, are good for the environment, good for people, good for the community, like all of those. It gives me the chills. So,
Oh, well, thank you. Well, when you talk about the empathy and like when you've gone through something, and I love that how you've taken that personal approach and, just even applying it right here to COVID or to an industry, right? Yeah. How do we take that personal feeling and share it and operationalize it to bring people together? I think because at the end of the day, we're all people. Companies are made of people. Industries are made of people. We're
mhm.
all together surviving here as people, and yeah, and having that empathetic approach is, I think, is really key. Um, yeah, so good, so many great things. I think we could just keep talking about.
Right.
uh,
We
we could
don't
just keep
have to
talking about
talk
all this.
for hours. We always
Yeah.
do. Well, one thing about the empathy that I think I really, just to kind of close that out, that really, cancer really helped me understand. And it was a girlfriend of mine that she was like, Sarah, you're in the barrel right now and you're dealing with the worst of it. And guess what? Every single person has a barrel. It just looks different. And they might not be going
Mhm.
through it right now. And that it kind of gave me this aha of like, we are all just people and everybody has hard stuff that they go through and, all of us. And
Yeah.
so,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, businesses are made up of people. And at the end of the day, on the other side of the email is a person that, might be struggling with something, or it's like, wow, I can just show up and be kind in everything I do, no matter what. And that's kind of
Yeah.
one big thing that I've taken from going through hard times.
Yeah. It really does help you extend grace when you've been through it, for sure. Well, and so thinking of just reflecting through our conversation, I wanted to just point out some takeaways that I've heard from you. The first one, I think, was when you were diagnosed with cancer and that discovery. You took the initiative to discover what you could do because you weren't getting maybe the answers or the direction that you were looking for. So there was that discovery process that cancer brought to you. And part of that was looking at your environment, right? And so in your environment, that included cosmetic things that you were putting on your body and things that were made up of ingredients or chemicals, things that were man-made or extracted and that were in your surroundings. And then lastly is the empathy. So am I hearing that right? Did I deduce it?
Definitely. Oh my gosh. Yeah, totally. I mean, I think for every person, whether you are in this industry, not in this industry, whoever you are, it's like we all want to be healthy. We want to be healthy. We want to feel good. We want to have productive lives. So what are the pieces that are in our control? What we eat,
Okay.
moving our body, stress, connection, and what kind of products we're using and that toxic load. So definitely that has been the discovery of that, I would say for sure, is a big piece. And the process of it. That's the other
Mm-hmm.
thing that I think sometimes people get overwhelmed and they're just like, well, I can't do this. And it's like, it's a process. You have to be
Yeah.
patient with yourself and extend the empathy to yourself as well. So,
Yeah. I
yeah,
think
I would say
sometimes
those are hard on ourselves. Yeah.
yes, yes, I think yeah, we're probably the least empathetic to ourselves, and so that's so wonderful. Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing your story and taking the time to just be so open with the community. And I really hope that whoever is watching this really feels the warmth and the kindness that you have, and um, yeah, and that we can all learn to be gentle with ourselves as we're in a discovery process and learning new things. So um, I hope you make it a great day, like I know you will.
Thank you.
And
You too. Thanks for having
thank
me.
you, of course. And so we're going to have this video available. It'll be on our platform on dannyday.com, on YouTube, and so we'll be able to watch this over and over again.
Anytime I'm like, this is terrible. I'll be like, wait a minute, go back to what you said, because that's really.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. I hope you have a wonderful, fabulous Friday. And for all of our watchers, a wonderful, fabulous Friday. Make it
thanks,
a great
Hayley.
day. Bye.